It only took one photo, one forgotten reflection in a mirror, to destroy everything I built over 2 decades. I thought I could hide it. I thought I could erase him. But I didn't realize he was still watching and waiting. Sometimes we think we know who we are until one night shows us everything we've buried. But before I tell you how it all unraveled, let me take you back to what used to be my ordinary world. His breath was warm on my skin, and his touch carried a sense of intent I hadn't felt in years. A sound escaped me before I could suppress the emotion rising within. In the back seat of his car, we created a haze on the windows, while my wedding ring shimmered beneath the street lamp, serving as a silent warning. I had declared it would be merely one night, just that singular occasion. Yet, as he leaned in and softly murmured his desire to experience me without any separation, I found myself unable to resist. I gave in completely, allowing myself to forget the guilt, the fear, and every hesitation. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every new and returning viewer of this channel for your presence here. Your support is invaluable. If you're just joining us and haven't subscribed yet, I'm eagerly anticipating your click on that subscribe button. This is the driving force behind this channel. I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. Julia Hoffman is the name I go by. At 43, I find myself a mother of 2 and a wife to a man who once set my heart aflame, yet now he scarcely meets my gaze unless it's to hand me the remote. In the heart of Bakersfield, California, we reside in a tranquil neighborhood where the grass is meticulously manicured, the wine flows at a modest price, and the whispers of scandal linger in the air. I once held the conviction that I was a good woman, faithful, beautiful, and predictable. But that version of me began to slip away the night I needed most to feel alive. It was merely one drink beyond the limit, and a man who regarded me as if I were still sought after, not merely someone who needed to break every vow I had ever uttered. My husband Kavini's a good man. He heads to his job, settles the expenses, and now and then recalls our anniversary. Our paths intertwined in college. We exchanged vows at the age of 25 and welcomed our first child into the world by 27. Somewhere along the journey, we lost the essence of what it meant to be lovers. We transformed into parents, cohabitants, and distant souls who lie back to back, recoiling at the mere brush of fingers in the shadows. I did not betray him out of disdain. I strayed because I longed for the sensation of being caressed, as if I were both delicate and worn simultaneously. It had been years since Kevin had laid a hand on me in such a way, yet Jace did. Malik's touch was as if I were a desire, not an obligation. What was meant to be an uncomplicated evening with the girls took an unexpected turn. A Friday evening brimming with margaritas, whispers of gossip, and the kind of dancing that barely stirs the soul. I donned a little black dress that surprisingly fit me better than I had anticipated. My dearest companion, Nina, persuaded me to don a pair of heels. She remarked that my legs still possessed their charm. I found myself in need of that deception. In a moment of desperation, we found ourselves at this location close to downtown, a venue shrouded in dim lighting and even murkier motives. It was in that very place that I first laid eyes on him. He stood by the bar, a figure of height and shadow, exuding an air of irresistible allure. Muscles rippled beneath a snug shirt that boasted countless hours at the gym. His gaze met mine, deliberately, with purpose, never by chance. He continued to gaze at me as if I were not a mere shadow. As I approached the bar to request another drink, he leaned in closer and remarked, "You move as if you've forgotten that you are fire." Those words ought to have elicited a chuckle from me, perhaps even a dramatic eye roll. Yet, I sensed the fabric of the dress constricting my thighs, drawing them together. Jace Washington, a 31-year-old fitness trainer, owned a gym merely 15 minutes from my home. I informed him of my marital status. He nodded as if it altered nothing at all. We conversed, swayed to the rhythm. I can hardly recall half the songs, only the warmth radiating from his body as he shifted behind me and the gentle caress of his lips against the curve of my ear. At the stroke of midnight, as the air outside grew heavy and my breath felt fleeting, he swung open the door of his black SUV, and inquired if I wished to sit for a while. The manner in which he expressed it was striking. Gentle, without any insistence, as if he anticipated my affirmative response. Within the confines of the car, the music played softly, the windows slightly ajar, allowing a gentle breeze to mingle with the distant shimmer of city lights. He leaned in, and I surrendered to his kiss, responding as if every part of me had been yearning for this moment. Even before he touched me, my body was already responding in ways I didn't fully understand. He moved with purpose, as if this moment had been destined to unfold just like this. I called out his name, overwhelmed, gripping the seat as the intensity grew. He moved with deliberate intent, every second drawn out, and I bit my lip to keep myself from crying out. The windows became shrouded in a misty veil. The vehicle swayed gently. My fingers dug into his back. As I sat in his car, the silence between us louder than any words, I knew I was already somewhere I could never return from. In those fleeting 10 minutes, I experienced a vitality that had eluded me for an entire decade. In the quiet that followed, I remained still as he navigated the road, returning me to my vehicle. My legs trembled with lingering intensity. The rhythm of my heart echoed in my ears. He glanced over and asked, "Do you ever wish to experience that again? You know how to reach me." I chose not to respond. I returned home and nestled into bed next to my husband. He remained utterly still. I gazed up at the ceiling, the lingering scent of Jace clinging to my skin, his breath vivid in the recesses of my memory. Despite my desire to convince myself it was merely a fleeting error, deep down, I understood it was far beyond a single evening. The morning following that night with Malik, I found myself in the shower, my back pressed against the chill of the tile, allowing the water to cascade over me as if it could cleanse the weight of my actions. But no amount of water washes away betrayal when it's carved into your choices. The memory of his touch clung deeper than skin, woven into me, hauntingly persistent. I had vowed to myself that it would be merely a singular occasion, a fleeting night to embrace the essence of being alive. One unforgettable night, I embraced my identity as a woman, transcending the roles of mother and wife. Yet, promises are easy to make when you feel seen, heard, and understood in a way your partner has long forgotten. That morning, Kevin prepared eggs, scrambled just the way I preferred. He brushed his lips against my cheek and inquired about the evening I spent with the girls. I offered a smile, spun a tale, assured him everything was all right and that our return had been delayed. He chuckled and remarked that I had it coming. A wave of nausea washed over me. The most unsettling aspect was the eerie sense of normalcy that enveloped me, as if nothing had shifted, as if I had not just surrendered to a man whose name reverberated in my mind with every blink. I moved through the motions, groceries, cleaning, checking on the kids. But beneath my calm exterior, I was a house with cracked walls, quiet, yet dangerously unstable. I made an effort to push thoughts of Jace from my mind. I attempted to convince myself that his resonant voice and calloused hands were merely figments of my imagination. Fantasies don't leave reminders that linger on your skin. They do not leave you flushed in a grocery store aisle beside men's fitness magazines. I vowed to myself that I would never return to the gym. I steered clear the exit that would take me there. I took longer routes. I ignored my cravings. But desire isn't rational, and silence only grows louder with time. 2 weeks later, after enduring a sense of invisibility for far too long, I stood once more before that familiar glass door. The gym was infused with the scent of sweat, rubber, and shattered aspirations. He noticed me the moment I stepped inside. Jace observed a woman performing squats. Our gazes locked, and that smirk, one that hinted he recalled every sound I uttered in the back seat, bloomed on his face, igniting a spark of heat. I told myself I was here to sweat, not sin. As he approached during my warm-up, he offered me a towel and leaned in to whisper, "You seem radiant today." My knees almost gave way. This time, we didn't even make it back to the car before everything unraveled again. He led me into the secluded yoga studio tucked away at the back of the gym, securing the door with a decisive click. He drew me closer, his actions driven by a hunger I hadn't been shown in years. I lost control for a moment, overtaken by a sensation I hadn't expected. The mirrors captured everything: the shame, the longing, the figure of a woman I could no longer recognize. He positioned me with care and intensity, as though he knew every part of me was his in that moment. Yet, on this occasion, it seemed distinct. This time, I allowed myself to embrace every emotion. I whispered his name, breathless and caught in the tide of the moment. He pressed his lips to the nape of my neck, whispering that I was his now. I wished to refute it, yet I chose not to. Afterwards, I gathered myself, my body still trembling from what had just happened. I posed a question that had previously lingered unspoken in the shadows of my mind. "Do you find yourself doing this frequently?" he inquired, taking a moment to reflect. "I mean women such as myself," I added. He glanced up from the task of tying his shoes and remarked, "Only the married ones." I stood still, caught in a moment of sheer disbelief. He caught the expression on my face and pressed on. He had a way of finding those who were vulnerable, and I was no exception. I felt an overwhelming urge to strike him. I felt the urge to scream, yet within me, I recognized that he was not in the wrong. I had approached him on 2 occasions. I found myself drawn back to the flames that had once scorched me, seeking an even greater intensity. "You took advantage of me," I whispered. "No, I provided you with what you desired," he stated, his tone steady. In that moment, realization washed over me. To him, I held no significance. I was merely another tale in his sordid anthology. I returned home trembling. The living room was filled with the sounds of my children engrossed in a movie. Kevin stood on the patio, expertly grilling burgers to perfection. He glanced upward, a smile gracing his lips as if I were still the woman he had wed. I returned the smile, yet within me, I felt as though I was falling apart. That evening, as I reclined in bed, I gazed at Brian's back. His shoulders appeared more expansive than I recalled. His breath flowed in a calm rhythm, serene and full of faith. The burden of my betrayal hung heavily upon me, constricting my chest and making each breath a struggle. It became clear to me that I needed to put an end to it. Yet, the most disheartening aspect was that I had no desire to. Jace had stirred a feeling within me that I found impossible to quell. I have always held the conviction that secrets, when concealed deeply enough, possess the potential to remain shrouded in obscurity for eternity. But secrets don't rot in silence. They wait, and they grow teeth. Yet, I found myself mistaken. One cannot dance with flames and anticipate remaining unscathed. And I found myself igniting gradually, enduring a slow and agonizing fire from within. The price of that single night struck with the force of a wrecking ball, obliterating all that stood in its path. 3 weeks had slipped by since that fateful second night with JC in the yoga studio. I had steered clear of the gym. I severed the connection by blocking his number. I endeavored to center my attention on my family, my husband, my children, and the warmth of my home. Yet, guilt lingers even when one ceases to sin. It persists. It lingers in anticipation. It flourishes. One morning, while perched on the edge of the bed, meticulously folding laundry, my phone vibrated with a sudden buzz. An alert illuminated the screen, emanating from an unfamiliar number. "Your reflection in that mirror was simply stunning, Lena." Just when I thought I had buried the past, it clawed its way back into my present. I stood still, caught in a moment of sheer disbelief. My heart ceased to beat. It was indeed him. He had altered his number. I promptly erased the message. I wished to feign that it never occurred. I wished to believe he was not observing me from afar, lurking like a predator in the underbrush. Yet, my hands trembled throughout the entire day. Kevin started to observe that my behavior had changed. He posed inquiries that caught me off guard. The reasons behind my apparent distance. The reasons behind my aversion to being touched at night. Why my lips curved into a smile, while my eyes remained untouched by joy. I offered justifications. The pressures of work, the ebb and flow of hormones, and the weight of anxiety intertwine in a complex dance, shaping our daily experiences. Yet Kevin was far from foolish. He was a man of few words, yet his vision was clear. In moments of doubt, the silent observer does not raise their voice. Instead, they delve into the truth. On that Friday, Kevin extended an invitation to two of his colleagues along with their spouses for an evening of barbecue delights. The evening unfolded with a cacophony of laughter and the clinking of glasses, a scene where revelry reigned supreme. Yet, beneath the surface of merriment, an unsettling premonition lingered, whispering that trouble was lurking just around the corner. At approximately 7:45 in the evening, once the majority of the guests had gathered around the fire pit, Kevin beckoned me to the kitchen. His voice carried a chilling, subdued quality. He set his phone down on the counter. "Who is Malik?" he inquired. My heart plummeted to my feet. My gaze fixed upon the screen. A thread of messages unfolded. He had sifted through my erased messages. I parted my lips, yet silence enveloped me. He extended the phone to me once more. On this occasion, it was an image captured in a mirror, a selfie reflecting the moment. I looked at the phone and saw a photo of us, a private moment I had forgotten had even been captured. I hadn't realized how vulnerable and exposed I had appeared. "Respond to me," he murmured, quaking. I sank into a chair. A profound numbness enveloped my entire being. It was merely a single night. What I meant was two, though it was an error. It held no significance. Kevin chuckled heartily. A brief, agonizing sound, reminiscent of a fist striking his chest. "It held no significance," he remarked. "You appeared to be in a state of bliss." That night, the house transformed into a battleground. He hurled a glass. He shouted, he wept, and then he fell silent once more. With the dawn of a new day, he gathered his belongings into a bag and set off. He brought the children to his sister's home and informed me that it was time for me to determine what I truly desired. I found myself at a loss for words, for the reality was that I had lost sight of my own identity. I had become a stranger even in the mirror. I transitioned from being a devoted wife to a deceitful liar, from a passionate lover to a heartless cheater, and from a nurturing mother to a woman who shattered the very foundation of her own home. I found myself wanting to despise Jace for all that he represented. Yet, beneath the surface, I understood that the decision rested solely with me. Just when I believed the darkest days were behind me, the shadows deepened. He arrived. Jace lounged on my porch in the bright daylight, clad in a snug white shirt and sunglasses, exuding an air of unabashed confidence, as if he reveled in his accomplishments. "What on earth are you doing here?" I let out a sharp hiss through the screen door. He gave a slight shrug. "I learned that your husband has discovered the truth. I thought you might appreciate some company." I nearly struck him. "You have shattered my existence." He inclined his head slightly. "I did not compel you. Do you recall the moment you approached me?" I shut the door with a forceful bang, secured the lock, and pulled the curtains closed. But shame doesn't stop at the threshold. It follows you into your silence. In the days that followed, his presence lingered in every corner of my mind. In the grocery store, just outside my child's school, and within the parking lot of my church, he observed me closely. At last, the clarity dawned upon me. He was more than mere temptation. He embodied the essence of a predator. A week passed, and then a letter arrived in the mail. The letter was intended for Brian, yet it caught my eye before it reached him. I unsealed it. Within the confines lay 10 photographs, each capturing moments shared between Jace and me. Various perspectives, distinct evenings, some captured within the gym's confines, others from the threshold of my home. He had been documenting our time together without my knowledge. My blood froze in my veins. I had not merely engaged in deceit. I found myself manipulated, toyed with, laid bare. 6 months have passed since Kevin departed. He initiated the process of divorce. He obtained complete custody of the children. My family hardly engages in conversation with me. Jace disappeared in an instant. Vanished from the gym. Nothing left behind, No solutions in sight. Whispers reached my ears, suggesting that he had ventured down this path previously. I was not the first wife ensnared by his cunning. Yet, understanding this does little to ease the pain. For the reality remains that I sacrificed everything for a man who merely desired to witness my descent. And I tumbled deeply. I appreciate you accompanying me on this arduous and convoluted path. If you find yourself perusing these words, keep in mind that a single night of indulgence may come at the price of a lifetime's tranquility. Some fires don't burn down houses. They burn down who we thought we were.